It is so good to be back. And when I say that, I mean back on the horror stuff, horror movies. That's what we're going to be talking about. I know I said I was going to be doing more folklore stuff, and it will come. But other than the videos that I was inspired to do over the past couple of days, horror movies started to speak to me again. Mainly because I watched 2 last night, and I started to think about, why do certain horror movies get under our skin and kind of freak us out a little bit more than other ones do, right? So whilst I'm sitting there having a little think to myself, I started to think about, of course, other elements that are included in horror movies. So what are the other elements that are included? A lot of the time, mental health has been playing a part in a lot of horror movies, whether it be grief, whether it be to do with loss in a different way. So not grief in terms of somebody passing, but a different type of loss, whether it be to do with somebody suffering from schizophrenia or the trauma that they may have faced. So movies like Smile, which I've made clear is one of my favourite franchises, and I've already said the third one needs to happen. But here we are talking about, no shocker because it's in the title, The Visit. Now this came out in 2015, so if you haven't seen it, sorry, there's going to be some spoilers. But if you have seen it, then let's discuss and let's see if we feel the same way about it. I'm going to tell you why this gets under my skin and why I think that it creeped out a lot of other people. Some people get very freaked out when it comes to horror movies with A, little children, and then B, elderly, right? Now, they may have their own personal reasons for that. I think everybody has certain associations. I've never been a big fan of clowns, okay? The original It, Tim Curry, brilliant actor, scared the bejesus out of me until I saw the last bit, and then I was like, really? But genuinely, yeah, I think clowns are creepy in general, the whole concept of it. But this, initially I was like, I don't know if I'm going to find this that creepy, but I was intrigued. So I delved into the depths of what may be the world of The Visit. And when we went into The Visit, what did I discover? I discovered that it was one of the creepiest things I think I've ever seen. And it made me feel that way because it was a bizarre concept. You've just got 2 little kids going to visit their grandparents, but they've never met them before. Okay, it's not unusual for for say people to be estranged from their parents for certain reasons, but these kids were kind of like teenagers. I think one was like a preteen, one was a teenager, so it'd been quite a few years, and then there was this kind of moment where we're gonna meet up with our grandparents, but the mother hadn't got photos of them around, so they'd never seen their grandparents at all, in person or pictures or video call, nothing. And off they go, packed up to see grandparents. And at first you are met with this lovely, kind of warm, elderly couple where you're like, okay, what's all the kerfuffle about? I don't get it. And then things start to go really, really bizarre. So, first of all, you start to almost climb this movie, okay? So like I said, as a big horror fan, and as horror fans that we are, we love the dark and the mysterious, the creepy, the strange and unusual. We start to watch and we start to think, okay, what will happen here? And of course, M. Night, let me try and pronounce this man's name correctly, Shyamalan. I'm so sorry, sir. I don't think I will ever pronounce your name correctly, no matter how hard I try. But he has always, in my opinion, made really great movies that I have always enjoyed. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. It came out as well. I remember it came out in September. My birthday's in September. A lot of horror movies come out then because obviously October's around the corner and Halloween and whatnot. So I tend to get quite excited. And a lot of the time they do come out on my birthday as well. So if I really want to see it, that's great. With this one, I didn't watch it in the cinema because I was like, oh, is it a found footage one? What's happening? And parts of it kind of are. Because there's certain parts of it that are filmed, there's certain bits that are video calls, and there's a mixture of it. Plus there's things that the children see, and then the strange behaviours, as I said, from their grandparents. So the kids go and they start to see that grandma's acting very strange at night, and she starts to be running up and down the corridor, and you hear these horrible, that sound of really frantic running, like that barefoot battering against the floor running. I can't stand that sound. It's like when somebody heavily knocks and bangs on a door. It irks me, right? So you hear that. Obviously the kids are like, what in the bejesus is going on here? But quickly, the grandfather kind of says, listen, you know, your grandmother is not that well, blah, 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 this, that, the other. And almost describes it as something such as sundown syndrome, which is something that can happen with elderly people, especially if they are suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. And that's where I bring in where this may not obviously be mental illness, but it is to do with mental health and the brain and neurological issues. The thought of growing old scares a lot of people. The thought of just simply growing old scares people. The thought of growing old and also losing your sense of self and your mind and your memories, who you are, terrifies a lot of people, and understandably so. You know, I don't think there's anyone out there that wouldn't be terrified about that. So you've got those things going on. Next, you've got the fact that there's quite a few kind of consistent jump scares in it. And the jump scares, like I said, they're not kind of in places where you would necessarily expect them. And you start to get this eerie feeling before you even really see anything, like in terms of gore. If we look at it from a kind of realistic, like I said, the realistic, relatable fears, the vulnerability of aging, the reality of aging, mortality, you know, like I said, Alzheimer's or dementia, sundown syndrome, the mental deterioration, violation of trust, it being in a familiar, you know, safe, what we believe is a safe setting, because, you know, most people who have a great relationship with their grandparents see their grandparents' house as a safe setting. Plus they were sent there by their mother, who they trust. So they didn't have any fears except for maybe some awkwardness. And as I mentioned, because it does have that found footage style, I think that does enhance the strangeness. I think it always does in found footage movies. Personally, you know, from when it first kind of started with the Blair Witch, it gave us that vibe right from the get-go. It always makes you think, what am I about to see? You feel like you're watching it, or you feel like you're there with found footage a lot of the time. The film being found footage, like I said, it's like, what am I going to see? It's unpredictable. The unpredictability, that is what adds it. That's the word I was actually looking for. The uncanny valley themes that run through The Visit as well, because it is very uncanny valley, and if you are creeped out by that, that's what can get under your skin, and that definitely got under my skin. I was very much like, these grandparents are acting like grandparents and human beings, but they're also not. ¿Por qué? Why? What's happening? I don't have an answer. So again, what is going on there with the uncanny valley? Like I mentioned before, the sundowning behavior, even though we know that this is a thing, seeing it happen and seeing that erratic behavior, it does give an inhuman quality to a person. And what's scary about that is that that's a very real thing. That's not something that is fictional. And I think, I don't think, I know with M. Night Shyamalan, he does quite often blend the two with things that are very much real and things that are very much, fictional, and kind of put those two things together. In this one, it leaves you with that very deeply unsettling feeling, and you kind of put yourself in the position of the children, and you're like, oh my God, could you imagine? You just want to get out of there. Like, how would you even do that? How, like, they're in the middle of nowhere, no neighbours around, no one's there, and for some reason, I imagine because they're very young children, and it's also like 2015, even though people had phones then, but still, as I mentioned, the fear before, but and I mentioned just now the no escape, the no one to help, the feeling of nobody is coming to rescue you, nobody is coming to help you. That's another big thing that kind of comes up in the movie, the idea of isolation, the threat, the perceived threat. And again, when we look at these things, we're watching this, and the pure nightmare fuel that is in, bear with me, this clip.
Becca? Stay in bed.
Just editing me here. I hadn't given my reaction that I was kind of wanted to give. Like, I can feel my eyes warring up as I speak about it. That scene just, it's like, some people may say that there are scarier scenes, and as you can see at the bottom, it does say that that's from Fandango movie clips, which is where I got that clip from. So it's their clip that they have put on, but everything about that makes my skin crawl. And that, just the kind of words of advice from the sister who already was awake and knew what was going on, just stay in bed. Could you imagine waking up in the middle of the night and just hearing somebody trying your locked door? No, thank you. No, thank you. I mean, you'd be very glad that you locked the bedroom door, but if you hadn't, yeah. And so that's another one of the reasons why this film just irks people. Skin crawly, but good. So you see what I mean there. I mean, that reminds me a lot of the bit in is the name gonna come to me now? Probably not. Never mind. But if I do remember it, I will bring it up. But it's the part in it that it just kind of makes you feel this atmospheric build-up that has been there, and that high tension that has been there, the unknowingness, the unpredictability. It kind of comes to this moment where you're like, am I dealing with something supernatural here? Am I dealing with mental health conditions? Am I dealing with and you get that moment where, are they even the grandparents? And that does occur. There is a moment, especially if you are a lover of the fans of horror, you do get to that moment where you're like, maybe there's something else going on here. Maybe we're not, maybe we're not alone in this little place. Also, I have to say, I'm so sorry for this stupid angle that I currently have. I need to fix it. I need a little tripod-y thingy majiggy. It's coming. I don't know what this is. Please bear with me. Anyway, little commercial break. But that is one of the reasons why it gives you that really terrifying feeling. It puts you in a position where you also feel sad. You feel sad because the grandparents, the real grandparents, as we find, are not the people that have been in the house play acting. The real grandparents were looking forward to seeing their grandchildren that they had been estranged from so many years, but they never got the chance. So there's this element of sadness as well that comes with it, which always sucks in a horror movie. And with that element, you realise that these people were targeted because of their close proximity to a kind of like essentially a hospital for patients who are elderly and suffering from brain diseases such as dementia and Alzheimer's and so on and so forth. But these people also were murderous. So as we found, they had no problem with the old killing. And that's when these poor kids have this moment where they're on the FaceTime call with their mum. Their mum goes, "That's not your granddad or grandmother." And the kids are like, shit. And obviously the mum then realises she needs to put, kind of pedal to the metal and get the hell there as fast as she can, whilst trying to call the police in a completely different county and say that her children are in danger. At this point, the grandparents are realising that the ruse is up. There's something afoot. And on top of that, the real bodies of their actual grandparents are found, and that is where you kind of see the gore and that whole climactic moment of where the children have to fight to survive. So it's quite a tense build up, as well as using some very real life fears that some people genuinely are terrified of, and others have obviously a fear of that's quite rational, but not to the point where it consumes them. Other people, they have it to the point where it's something that really scares the bejesus out of them, and you can understand why. But that's why I wanted to talk about The Visit, because The Visit was one that, it's not just a great movie. It's not, only that are a lot of jump scares and there's this eeriness, but it holds a lot of just pure nightmare fuel. It holds a lot of this moment where you go, this really scares me, and you can very easily put yourselves in that position, especially as a horror fan where you've seen a lot of different things. This movie also, in a way, reminded me of another film which I did want to talk about actually quite soon. I think I had it on my little list, The Taking of Deborah something or other. Let me quickly find it. Bear with me, darlings. The Taking of Deborah Logan. That's it, Deborah Logan. I've watched this film. This actually came out the previous year to The Visit in 2014. And again, it's like found footage documentary style. So it gives that vibe as well. Those two, they kind of quite remind me of each other. So if you did like The Visit in terms of, you being a horror fan and getting down with that kind of thing, and it got under your skin and gave you the heebie-jeebies in a way that us horror fans do love, then I would also recommend The Taking of Deborah Logan. Next, I cannot promise whether we will be talking about a folklore. If you want folklore, please let me know in the comment section below. Tell your girl what you want. If you want some more folklores, we can do some more folklores. If you want some more haunted stuff, then I can see what I can, rustle up. If you would like to hear some ghost stories from others, then we can do that. If you would like my personal stories, we can do that. And of course, more horror movies, because I will never tire about talking about horror and why I love it so much, and why I believe that certain horror movies are just designed to creep us the flying fudge out. So, thank you so much for joining me today. I know my previous videos have been a little bit lackadaisy on the old thank yous and goodbyes, but that's because things have been a little bit weird, and now are getting so much better. So here I am. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you very, very much, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. And like I said, let me know what you'd like to hear a little bit more of. If you want some more folklore stuff, let me know. If you want some more horror movie stuff, let me know. Otherwise, I shall just go with the flow on whatever, the mood takes me, so to speak. Until next time, stay safe, stay spooky, stay your own special brand of weird, and make sure that you look after yourselves and each other, because I love you all very, very much. Mwah. Till next time.